Lyft and Uber say they will leave Minneapolis after city council forces them to pay drivers more. The measure requires ride-hailing companies to pay drivers at least $1.40 per mile and 51 cents per minute for the time spent transporting a rider, or $5 per ride, whichever is greater, excluding tips.
Those who support the city council decision say, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi's total compensation last year rose 22% to $24.3 million, the company disclosed Tuesday. They can afford to give the CEO a 22% raise but can't give the people that actually make the company money one. Give me a break. Long live the working man. Pay a living wage or get up from your desks, use your Mercedes-Benz, BMWs and you start doing the work. These companies put taxis out of business using IPOs and borrowed money to charge next to nothing and pay well. Then when they had their monopoly they flip-flopped and pay next to nothing while charging more. If a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers would calculate their vehicle depreciation due to all the miles they put on, they would realize they are breaking even or even losing money. These gig driving and delivery companies get over on drivers and the customers. Often, base pay is around $3. These drivers depend on tips to make up the difference. Often, the customer is paying so much, they don't want to tip much if at all. So at the end of the day, these drivers unwittingly negotiated themselves out of a job. Uber and Lyft left because it is no longer profitable for them. Honestly, I wouldn't run my car into the ground for $3 pay and hoping for tips. That sounds awful and costly, especially with the cost of car maintenance and gas. Uber and Lyft make their profits off desperate people who can't find real jobs. It sounds good up front, until you realize they're getting an employee and a vehicle operated and maintained at the employee's expense for what they should be paying for just an employee. I drove Uber and Lyft years ago when there was money to be made. Today these drivers make a lot less. I'm still a registered driver and I get the bonus for taking 10 or so trips. Used to be $50, $70. Now it's $20 maybe. Gas and insurance has definitely gone up since I drove. They have been squeezing drivers for a long time. I witnessed it myself firsthand. I turned on my driver app one day. It says I will pick up a passenger, and they will pay me a $13 fine. When I got to the passenger, he was flaming mad because he said the fare had just been doubled. I told him I had nothing to do with that and that's all on Lyft. When I got to the drop-off and checked out the passenger, I still got on $13. Since Lyft doubled the fare, they took all the proceeds and gave me zero. They doubled the fare on the passenger and kept the extra funds for themselves. I have so many other examples, but too many to list here. They scam the drivers and have some creative way of doing it. Those drivers do deserve better. They are using their vehicles, paying for the gas, insurance, and upkeep on it. They have 100% of the overhead, and for what? $3 base pay and the hope of a tip from people that are mostly entitled and expect everything for free.
Those who support ride-share companies say, Lyft and Uber drivers aren't employees, they are independent contractors who use a ride-sharing service. They can choose if they want to drive today, what time they start and what time they stop and if they want to accept a ride or not. That's not an employee. Any harm that comes to leftist-run cities is a good thing and the people that vote for the leftists all need to suffer too, and the people that do not vote for the leftists need to leave. Uber and Lyft were started to be inexpensive and non-organized alternative to organized taxi services, with independent drivers wanting to make a few extra bucks. If the drivers want to organize and go the way of the yellow cabs and other taxi companies, then they will need to meet those requirements. Permits and all that goes with it. Good for Uber and Lyft. It's about time companies took a stand against these inflationary wage demands by groups wanting to treat part-time jobs as lifelong careers. This is way more than $15 per hour, pay drivers at least $1.40 per mile and 51 cents per minute. Let's say someone rides 20 miles in 30 minutes, that equals $28 plus $15 equals $53 for 30 minutes. That's excessive. How are people going to afford that? Every action has a reaction. That applies to physics and business. These drivers, with the assistance of the city council, just negotiated their way out of a city job. Great example, micro example of what happens when government dictates how businesses should run. I hope they do stop service and teach this council how business in America works. It's in their interest to cancel Uber and Lyft. Those two companies destroyed DUI revenue. Cities lost tons of money. Now they can bring back the good old days.